So another go now under the title Social Narcissism, looking at how society pushes us to overestimate our capacities, leaving many behind. I want to start with a quote that seems to be, at least at first glance, completely out of the way and not connected. It is something I read in a book written by Daniel Barenboim, dealing with music and the history of music, and something that is actually not linked to history but to society. Now, the quote: "But I think all progress is, in fact, having the courage to do away with the support of the past. Look at the switch from Bach, on the one hand, to Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven on the other hand, and then from Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven to Wagner. You could say that you could rely on God in Bach's case, in Bach's time, and in Beethoven's time, you couldn't rely on God anymore. You had to rely on mortals. And Wagner says, you can't even rely on that. We have to create a new kind of human being." As I said, it's dealing with music, but I think it is dealing actually with what is going on, or what had been going on with society. It is the gain of control, but at the same time, the loss of control in terms of loss of any reliable reference we can make. There's something that keeps us all busy, and it doesn't matter what it is. Actually, it is the integration into this market system, it is the integration into certain economic process, but it is the disintegration when it comes to real life. For Marx, the highest value had been time, and not just time, but the freely disposable time. This was something he explicitly said, that all economy is about time, and this means gaining this freely disposable time. Although we have some trends today that we talk about quality time with kids, quality time with friends or something like this, and that we talk about time poverty. It is in general the other way around today, that time, this freely disposable time, is not valued, at least not socially or societally valued. Wiki is the key word. Wiki meaning fast, everything has to go fast, everything has to be quickly done, quickly digested, and not thought about. But not thought about means that everything that could be possibly relevant is already built into the system, which means at the same time the system of thoughts is hugely reduced. It's reduced on something that is immediately understandable, comprehensible, but at the same time that makes anything that is figuring out, or that is establishing this complex existence, is externalized via link. Look actually at the Wikipedia, which is sometimes just awesome in terms of articles existing from links. So it is there, but it is not inherently, it is not genuinely part of this. In this way, we find a huge increase in education. Education is a huge market, and increasingly, and it is overtaking many of the traditionally major markets, car manufacturing and all this. Economically, education is more important. But at the same time, it is a quantitative increase. The qualitative increase may be at least questioned. It is this quality of a binarization, basically. You have to get some truth within this system, ceteris paribus. Everything is faded out as long as it is not part of this immediate focus and can be digested within this small framework. It is important to be aware of these borders. And it is important to mention this tension that on the one hand, this system suggests that we can own situations, that we are the owners, and we are our own travel agency, we are our own even printers of houses or whatsoever. But at the same time, what comes back to my mind is a statement by Niklas Luhmann that everything is possible, anything is possible, but it's nothing that I can change. This includes the entire system of giving us this ownership or the impression of ownership, a huge amount of security instructions. When we open any box for the technical gadget or whatsoever, or something, a cooker, a washing machine, the handbook is first and foremost a handbook of security instructions and of instructions what to do when we dispose of this item. There is little, in relative terms, there's little on how we actually use the thing. And it is about terms and conditions. We have to sign every time, explicitly or implicitly, being aware of it or not. But it is in actual fact this that dominates the entire economic process of exchange. And it is in fact this shift in the economic process from the use value to the exchange value, from production to exchange, that is hugely important. Of course, this is an economic process first and foremost, but there are all these psychological moments involved, including what Erich Fromm titled in one of the books he wrote, To Have or To Be. And it is more to have, and then of course somebody else has to make sure that he or she or the institution is not made responsible for what we have and possibly abuse, or where we feel abused by this item at some stage and try to claim for the damage. We have this, for instance, that a famous fast food chain is under threat of obesity claims or obesity complaints being made responsible. So on the one hand, we have this developing of ownership. On the other hand, we have just the opposite, that it is not about ownership, but it is about shifting responsibility away. Responsibility, again, in small little packages that can move like the figures on in chess, but at the same time, as we all know, even if we don't know the rules of chess, possibly we know that the value of these different figures is a different one. This is not just a matter of the economic process in the strict sense, in terms of exchange of goods, of commodities, but it is as well taking place in the area of the political processes and in terms of social processes. Wolfgang Streeck mentioned something like we prefer to buy a good, like a mobile telephone, privately, making a private contract with the company, instead of fighting collectively for the extension of networks. The same is true with public transport. It's increasingly privatized, not just in economic terms, but as well in this attitudinal terms of why should we deal with something like this that is political if it is easier and promising more success, more likely success, if we go for a private solution. Buy a mobile phone instead of fighting for a mobile phone network. It is as well a matter of political processes. We have the click democracy. We have with this a very much individualized process of politics and policies, and we have an itemized understanding of policies, that it is dealing with one important thing, environmental issue, kindergartens in a special region for a special age, and of course traffic control, but it is not thinking about or not putting forward the importance of a holistic concept. Of course, we have the other problem of experience with what had been called totalitarianism, but at the same time, the concept of totality should not be thrown out as the baby with the bathing water. Of course, all this, although we may suffer from it, we may feel the burden again and again, all this is kind of sweetened with giving us little cookies and the control of which cookie do we like and which cookie do we accept and which not. Another illusion, because if we go through the cookies, if we control every time the website we access, it is nearly impossible to keep a pace. Keep pace, again, we can do it theoretically, but as we have to move on, we cannot do it. It is just another bubble looking nice in front of us, but not really having any effect. Economically, there are different aspects well known, largely discussed: the massification of consumer goods, of commodities. It is as well their standardization, even if we get the impression that we can individualize each item. We can have a computer, we build the computer, we build our own car to our own needs. It's all made up. We have this patchwork system where we can put things together, but patchwork not in terms this part has to go there, but we can freely combine them. At least this is the illusion. As soon as we go further, we have the monopolization, and this, of course, makes it nearly impossible to control anything, because the monopolies will tell us what we can do, what we have to do, and what is best for us. In this way, it is as well a kind of representation. If you can't beat them, join them. If you can't really individualize these items, join the best brands, represent what is good, at least what seems to be good. I just attended a conference where one of the major publishers showed its strengths which is frightening. And especially it is frightening as it shows the truth of all these different things: standardization, massification, middle. The quality is mediocre, and it is highly standardized. That actually, if we do not fit into the standard, we do have problems. It is as well a kind of what I would like to call naivization. We are all made to little dependent children, naively following what is offered because we know that we do not have a real choice. And it is the externalization. As soon as we want to do something different, or we need something different that is not part of this major market system and its psychological, sociological appendix, we have to externalize. We have to externalize costs. We have to externalize special tastes. All this cannot be part of the major system. It may be integrated at some stage, but at the same time, first it has to go through this phase of externalization. A phase not just in temporary terms, but in qualitative terms. In spatial terms as well, as we see when it comes to the so-called developing countries, I think every term is, or let me say, I feel with every term a little bit uncomfortable. Global North, Global South, developed countries, all this. But if we take this term developing countries, we have this situation that they produce what they actually do not use and cannot use. There is no use for them for highly efficient raw materials needed for batteries. There is no need for them to build, to use the high-tech stuff that is actually produced there. It is exported. And it is exported to the so-called developed countries, to the global north. If we want to use this term, we consume, at least to a large extent, what we don't really need. In this context, we have to revisit as well the concept of value chains, because what we actually see is not a matter of value chains, but to talk with Ben Selvian, it is about poverty chains. It is leaving people behind, leaving countries, leaving continents behind in favor of those who are rich already. The old Matthew principle. This is hugely important as well, that we see an overall process that I would like to call paratization. There are parasites that are trying to produce the same rubbish, to produce to the same extent what is not really needed, instead of making value or accepting the value that is inherently given in certain products, that is really the value of use value. And there we come to power in terms, use value as well in terms of power of being able to control situations. This means terms and conditions when it comes to purchases that we can really control, that are really relevant, instead of long lists that nobody understands. There is this strange factor of the value of people, of Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or whoever it is, they are valued in a certain way. And at the same time, it is frightening to see in which way actually digitization is used as well then in terms of discrimination. That we have enterprises, data centers that value us in terms of our credit worthy, of being credit worthy, and that passes on this information to third parties without actually being allowed to do so. But who complains? Who knows that we can complain, and who knows where we can complain, and then who has the time and is ready to take a certain risk to bring these institutions or enterprises to the court. This is a complex system of establishing our satisfaction with the system that at least gives us the situation, the illusion to say to ourselves, well, but we control the situation. Isn't it great that we have this control? Isn't it great that we can do something and that we can have, or that we have all these opportunities that are in actual fact just a kind of social narcissism of loving ourselves in this system, in this presumed or suggested power structures, without having any influence or any real influence. And some are really falling behind, and in a way, they are the more clever people, possibly, because they resist the system and cannot be integrated, even if they want to be integrated. There is a certain attention to it, of course, and it is a matter of overlife, of overliving, of overstretching certain situations to such an extent that we are not able to control them anymore. To have or to be, at least if we have something, we can be with it. If we do not have anything, we are outside of the game, outside of the equation, and have the pure life. But the paradox is that the pure life is lost. Thank you.